Hello, folks. How are you? Welcome to the next episode of the Bravo Zulu live stream series. I'm delighted today to be able to bring on somebody who's been using D4H now for over a decade. We've been in contact. That's Dale. Dale, are you over there? Hello.
I am. Hello.
Good to see you, and thank you for coming on.
Yes, thank you.
So, today we're going to talk all about rural emergency preparedness and response. Dale, you're in Waldo County, Maine.
Waldo County, Maine, city of Belfast.
What's the kind of population of Waldo?
Waldo County has 39,600 people.
39,000. Okay. And Belfast, is that a lot of that or?
Belfast has got about 6,500.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Right. So, United States, you are for people internationally. Just give them a sense because we should get viewers here from all over the world. If you I would say flew to Boston is probably the best landmark for people. And then from Boston, you're going up the coast, and you're way up here near the. How close to the Canadian border are you?
We're about halfway up the Maine coast. We're
Okay,
probably
it's a good bit further.
3 or 4 hours from Canada.
New Brunswick next up. Okay, excellent. And so here is Waldo County.
About 850 square miles.
What's the kind of terrain? I mean, what do we look at? A lot of forestry. It's agricultural.
It's 85% forest land, and it's all hilly.
Okay,
mostly.
So what's the main industry there? Is it?
Well, working somewhere else is the main
okay.
We're surrounded by. We don't really have a major metropolis in Waldo, so everybody goes to another county, a city in another county to go to work for the most part.
Okay, and what are you dealing with then? And I mean, based on your location here in the U.S., you're on the East Coast up north. You've got the near the coast. Sorry, on the coast. What kind of emergencies and things does the location bring you?
Our biggest are storms, winter storms and summer storms, wind storms, bringing the power grid down, blocking roads, that type of thing. It's actually a pretty safe state, which makes it kind of rough being an emergency manager. We don't have earthquakes, and our flooding really isn't all that bad because we are high terrain.
Yes. Okay.
But we have our share of minor hazmat incidents, and we have small mass casualty incidents, but mostly it's roads damaged by flood waters, storm water, and trees coming down on lines and things like that. Our worst situation is losing power.
Talk to us about why losing power is bad.
What's that?
Just describe a little bit about why losing power is bad.
Well, of course, everything is tied to it. You don't get fuel, and you can't move vehicles, and especially in the wintertime when it's cold, especially if it's really cold. If you lose power, you lose heat, and that's the biggest thing for us. And of course, you also can't pump water, and 80% of our residents are on well water. They're not part of any city water system.
Okay. How do you deal with that? How do you assist them? What happens?
Well, we typically would set up either if we had to do overnight sheltering, we worked with the Red Cross to set up a shelter at one of our schools. And all of our schools now have generators. Okay. Also, the towns might set up their own warming centers, either at the town office or if they have a library, they might set it up at the library.
And to explain to people, I think you said to me you have 26 towns. Is that right?
26 towns. Maine's a little different. A lot of places in the United States have either county government or municipal government, and we have both.
Okay.
We have 26 towns. They're all homes, have their own abilities to set their own ordinances and whatnot. And then we have the county government, which mostly is a regional government, but we don't have oversight on land use or roads or things like that. Those are all done at the town level. Okay. We have the sheriff, but they have the fire departments.
And so as a county EMA, what's your role then during an emergency or an incident? I mean, you're coordinating with the state. back down to these towns, they're running on the ground.
Yes, and the thing is at the town level, everybody's a volunteer. The firefighters
Mm-hmm.
are volunteers. The emergency managers are volunteers. I'm the first level of a full time emergency manager,
Okay.
so I work at this every day.
Typically, just pick a town for me, and we'll talk about one. Or something I can see here.
Well, I live in Winterport. It's in the north east
Oh yeah.
corner.
Okay, perfect. And so, okay, so these are small communities, and each has their own fire department.
They each have their own fire department. A few of them have their own ambulance department. And if they do have an ambulance department, they typically cover other towns who don't.
Mm-hmm.
And they have their own emergency management director,
Yeah.
town director.
And what are they typically doing for their normal job if they're a volunteer in that role?
They may be retired. They may work at a business. They have a government job, which means that they're not busy. They're not available during business hours unless the disaster is really big.
Yes, yeah. And so they're the ones setting up the BA. Sorry, I've jumped somewhere. That's back into Belfast.
Downtown Belfast, yeah.
You'd be actually, we'll give people a look if we can get a sense of the terrain. So it's nice. It's a nice landscape. I visited you there once.
Came and taught a class for us.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, great. Okay, so within these towns, then, like your town there will be setting up their own sheltering that people can go down to.
They many times they would set up their own what we'd refer to as daytime sheltering. Probably not overnight.
Yeah.
Even during some of our biggest events, people typically will end up going back home, even if they're cold. They'll just put on blankets and whatnot, but they don't have a place to go, maybe to cook or shower or get water. Because they are on well water, they probably don't have the ability to pump it.
How fragile is the electricity? I mean, what does it take to get rid of it?
It doesn't take much around here. Because we are 85% woodland, doesn't take much for those trees to come down and we start losing power.
And is that main lines being taken out, or it's just towns get taken out, or like how widespread is that when it happens?
It's what I refer to as the 1,000 cuts. If we can have a situation where there can be 100 to 200 different roads closed because of trees down in the roads, and many times they take the lines with them because all our lines are overhead.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. So this is great, Dale. Thank you very much. And I'll just say to people who are watching this live, you can ask questions to Dale in the comments. So all you need to do is reply on Twitter to the where you're watching this, on Facebook, on YouTube, or LinkedIn, any of the platforms that you're watching this on. All you need to do is reply to put a message in under the video, and it comes up here live on the stream in front of us, and Dale will be able to answer any questions. So this is fascinating, Dale. All these towns are quite self-sufficient in terms of fire, ambulance for small communities, and they're looking after themselves in incidents. That's great. So what's the interaction between the county then and these towns? I mean, how much communication passes? What are they reporting to you? What are you reporting up to the state?
Three of the services that we do provide at the county level that really ties them in with us is we have the only communications center, the dispatch center. So all fire, police, and EMS in the entire county are dispatched out of that one facility the county runs.
Okay.
We have the full-time EMA staff, and we have an emergency operations center. And so we're reaching out to them to gather information and then putting it all together and feeding it back out to everybody. And also we have our sheriff's office, which is the police department for 23 of the 26 towns.
Right. Okay. And is that all in Belfast?
Yep. That's the building that I'm in is also the same building the sheriff is in. And then the comm center is right next door to us.
So that's you guys. I saw you have a nice name. You've Public Safety Way.
Yep.
Here.
When we built the new EMA sheriff's office building, the city let us come up with a new name for what was our driveway is now a way.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. So you're here. You're here. This is your office, and where you're going. And I think you've been good enough to share some pictures here as well with us. We can share. This is our
staff vehicle. we're pretty proud that that little Jeep has more communications in it than some of the other county EOCs.
Very good. So what do you use this for? How does it use as a tool? We'll
For
get to
us, it's
the
kind of
logo in a minute.
it's a staff vehicle, so it takes us to meetings and things like that. But also, it's set up as kind of a first response vehicle. It goes wherever I go, and if I get a call 24/7, 365, I can go right directly to an incident scene with that vehicle. I get called out for hazmats, incidents, and anything local. If it was some sort of a mass casualty, those type of things, they'd call me out to come help with coordination.
Yeah, excellent.
And I take that vehicle.
So I remember meeting you for the first time near the state EMA, I think.
Yeah,
And you said to me, you'll see the logo, just follow it along the road. And I tailed you in a rental car for quite a while.
Yeah.
To the EMA. Yeah, in Augusta, that's right. This having civil defense on this is, to me, it's quite unique in the United States.
Yes.
To be called civil defense. How come?
Well, it's our history, and I have found that it's a logo that's very recognizable. I don't know how many times I've been stopped by folks who said, I had an older vehicle that said emergency management on it, and they asked me what emergency management was. And the only way I could get them to understand what it was, I'd say, well, we're what civil defense evolved into.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they knew what I was talking about.
And what was civil defense? I know there's a little, I'm not going to call it a museum, but there's certainly in the state EMA, there's a couple of bits and pieces from the past. Is that my memory? Right? It was a long time ago. What did civil defense used to do in Maine? What were the threats? What were you there for?
The primary civil defense was originally created for the nuclear war scenario. And that was pretty much a big focus for them until about the 60s, when they started picking up natural disaster type issues.
So this was walking around with Geiger counters kind of thing, picking up readings.
We still have some Geiger counters here. Everyone else was to turn them in, but I kept a few.
Nice. And so that was it. It was if there was a nuclear war, if something, it's taking readings in the community and reporting them back.
Yeah.
To the levels of radiation. Very good. And so that obviously, sorry, keep going. It developed into natural disasters.
So it developed into natural disasters, and then later on we picked up hazardous material responses, and then 9/11 brought terrorism, and so there's some places are now called Homeland Security Emergency Management. Maine, we're still called Emergency Management, but we were still called Civil Defense up until 1973. Then we became Civil Emergency Preparedness. And then in the late 80s, we became emergency management.
Okay, interesting.
And another reason why I like the civil defense is civil defense was very oriented towards personal preparedness. Families needed to be prepared for. And unfortunately, when emergency management came around, it was, oh, don't you worry, we'll take care of you. And what that's happened now is, there's two of us in this office full time, and there's 39,000 residents. I can't take care of all of them by myself.
Yes. Yeah.
So the civil defense mantra was it was a self-help program.
I don't know if you've seen any of the New Zealand live streams on here. They've got something quite unique in that sense too, where their big scenario is they say the Alpine Fault earthquake on the South Island, which is, if it happens and it's due, is going to break all forms of access to the entire community. The community is spread across a very rural area up in mountains and valleys and everything else. And they know when it happens, they will be overwhelmed. And the line is, help is not coming. And so the whole emergency management, and they're actually called civil defense down there out of interest.
Yeah.
The whole thing is set up around making sure that those small pockets of community can self-sustain. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. There's a friend of mine that uses the term, the cavalry's not coming.
Yeah. How do you train for this? I mean, what are you doing? How are you training those towns? How do you exercise?
We meet with them on a monthly basis, and we do in-house training with them to bring them up to speed. Because they are volunteers, we kind of go through them quite often. Yeah. But every few years, we probably a good third of them get replaced. So we do a lot of training. We also do exercises usually tabletops at night and field exercises on the weekends.
Okay.
Because they are volunteers, they can't do anything during the day. Business
Yeah, of
hours.
course. Yeah, yeah. So what's in this picture? What's happening? You've taken over
Well,
a scout camp.
this was an after-action review meeting of a big field exercise that we did at a local scout camp. We needed a place. We were doing a search and rescue scenario, and we needed a place not only that had lots of woods, but also had some cabins for people to stay in.
Oh, okay.
And I happen to be a scouter. I'm with the Troop 34 and 234 here in Waldo County. And so I went to them. I said, "Hey, can we use your facility?" And they said, "Great." We brought in the wardens and the game wardens and the forestry department and state police and then incident management people from all over the state. And we built a base camp at the scout camp. And this was an exercise that we did. This was our mobile command post that we have. It's an old step van that we converted into a command post. We brought that out in the field.
What's inside? Comms?
Communications and every gadget and piece of tool or you can think of, from pencils to clipboards. There's literally 100 clipboards in there. I have found when you're in the field, a clipboard is worth more than anything else.
I like your sort of do you call it storage area, warehouse, garage? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
the terminology used. You've got. I remember seeing all your inventories printed out on each shelf and bag. It was very clear what went everywhere. There was quite a lot of equipment.
I yell at my staff. I said, because I got a couple of part-timers too. I said, you move anything from shelf 4 to shelf 5, you better update it in D4H.
Excellent. So, you were saying that we were talking about the types of emergencies. It sounds to me like I'm hearing this is mainly it's storms, it's bad weather coming in. Is that
bad weather is our biggest issue?
So is summer quiet?
Well, unfortunately, some places get terrorists and we get tourists. Sometimes you might think it's the same thing, and we get overrun sometimes by tourists. And when they come, the car accidents pick up, and it gets a little interesting in the summertime. Waldo's not so bad, but our adjoining county of Hancock has Bar Harbor, which is internationally known, for Acadia National Park, and they have like 2 or 3 million people going through that place in the summertime.
I mean, from a perspective of you're talking a lot about these are volunteers. There's more volunteers here. There's volunteers. It's all voluntary run, and has to be in a community of the size and location. I assume getting people with an interest in emergency management is difficult. I mean, who are they? Are they ex-fire chiefs? Are they? I mean, the volunteer fire chiefs that went and did it, or
well, half of our fire chiefs are also the local EMA director, emergency management director.
Yeah. Okay. And they're volunteer as the fire chief too.
Yes.
Yeah. How many firefighters in? I mean, if you have 26 fire departments, is that right?
We have 20. Well, it's funny because we have 25 fire departments in 24 towns. There's one town that has 2 fire departments that don't get along. 2 towns don't even have a fire department. And the average fire department probably has anywhere from 6 to 12 volunteers.
Okay, right. Okay. And even maintaining those in a small town must be difficult. I mean, I don't know how you do that and make sure they're always available to respond.
We have had a single-story residential structure fire, and we've had to page out 20 fire departments to get enough people to respond to it during business hours. Okay.
And that's coming from Belfast or coordinating that?
Well, we've been asked to come in and help with the incident management on some of those. But yeah, it's not unusual in the daytime for that fire department to be able to come up with one person.
Yeah. Okay. So communications to the public during an incident, is that coming from the county or does that come from each town? Does each town do that themselves?
The towns may have some of their own means, like there's a couple towns that have got the CCTV, the online being able to put stuff on TV. Some towns use distro list with emails. Others have boards they put up out front of the town office with messages. Here at the county, we have the IPAWS wireless emergency alert that we worked
Okay.
out with FEMA.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, last week we put out our very first live WIA message, real world one. It's the one the state of Maine has ever had.
What was the event?
We had a 911 outage. No one could call 911.
Ah,
It
okay.
lasted for about 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours.
And what was the fallout of that? I mean,
Well,
what was?
we had a couple of car accidents. Fortunately, when we put out the wireless emergency alert, we gave them an alternate telephone number. It was just a regular telephone number. It wasn't a 911 number.
Okay. Yeah.
And to tell them to call that in the meantime. And we actually had a car accident that got called in over a regular phone line instead of 911.
Okay. That IPAWS message. How does it delivered to people? What's the experience?
Well, we have a software tool that we use to put the message in and put all the specifics in.
Mm-hmm.
We hit send. It goes off to FEMA. FEMA's computers are humming, and then it sends it out to all the cell phone companies.
Do they have to approve anything, or it's automated?
It's automatic.
No one stops it. Yeah.
Correct. And it's only supposed to go in the geographic boundary that we select.
Mm.
Unfortunately, in a rural area, we don't have a cell phone tower every mile.
Yeah.
We have towns of 25 square miles that don't have a cell phone tower.
Yeah.
So I had to pick the whole county just so I could make sure that half the county actually got the message. Okay. And even then, it's only supposed to go over your boundary. The standard is, for 5G, 4G, or whatever. It's supposed to be like a couple 100 feet outside our boundaries. It went 20 and 30 miles outside of our boundaries, the message. Only because it's going to the nearest cell phone tower, which might literally be 15, 20 miles away.
And then it hits everything on the cell phone tower.
Again, it's supposed to only select within a geographic area, but that's if you have a higher end phone. Okay. Most of our residents still have older phones, and the older phones don't take that into account. They just.
But how does it? I mean, on an old phone, does it come in as a text message, or does it come in just as an on-screen alert? Like I've the latest iPhone, and I know I'm going to get a emergency alert come up on the screen.
When we put out the message, we put out a 90-character version and a 360-character version, and the newer phones get the 360. The older phones will only get the 90, and even then, one of my part-timers has an old flip phone, and it shows up in about 6 text messages. That 90-character.
Hey, you had a flip phone when I visited you now, so don't be.
Yeah, I know. Right. You forced me to go to one of these fancy phones, so.
We were talking just before we came on the call together. We were talking about COVID, and you managed to sustain it through COVID all in person. You were able to do that.
One of the things that we noticed was what determined your level of contamination was how your population density. They talk about social distancing. Well, when you live in a rural area, you're already socially distanced. When you got 25 people per square mile, you're pretty well spread out. So we didn't really get impacted anywhere near as bad as a lot of other places. We continued to work from our office the entire time. There's 2 full-timers and 2 part-timers here. And we didn't have any problems. And yeah.
That's great. How do you communicate with all those towns? Is that you go on a video call, a conference call? I mean,
well, I got introduced to Zoom. And we do a lot of that. Now we do a lot of mixed meetings where we have some in-person people and some people on Zoom. Those folks that are comfortable with coming into a meeting come in, and those folks who aren't will usually Zoom into the meeting.
Excellent. So how do you use D4H then during an incident like that?
Well, we use, of course, the incident management D4H tool, and that's been a huge bonus for us because, again, we're so spread out. Everybody can get onto it. They may not have an actual official EOC in their town. It may be from their office in their home. But they can log in, and we share information. The cool thing is, of course, we can come up with our own status boards on the fly. We have in some emergencies created our own brand new status boards specific to that incident because it wasn't something we imagined we'd have to track for information, and all of a sudden we do have to track that information. We never thought we'd have to track PPE, and that was something that got invented on the fly. But everybody can get in and update their information, and that's been huge. In the past, it was make a telephone call or they'd fax you the information.
There's a question in here of what sort of status boards did you build? So you're talking there about a PPE board?
We have PPE board. Probably the board that gets used the most is our roads and utilities board. We have a board to track the locations of wherever the trees come down on the roads.
Okay.
And then also we track if there's power lines down at that location, because the public works teams can't go out and clear the trees if they're wrapped up in wires. So then we coordinate with the private power company.
Yeah.
To make sure, and we prioritize what ones where we want them to go. And we actually have during a really bad event, we have somebody from the power company come in our office and work with us.
Okay,
and,
excellent.
They'll set up a laptop with all their data, and then I set up a laptop for them with D4H incident management, and
excellent.
they update the information for us right into D4H.
Is that the Maine power company or who?
Central Maine Power.
Central Maine Power. Yeah.
We have boards on equipment, of course, resource status, resource requesting, casualties. I've got like 20 some odd boards we've created already. We track critical facilities, gas stations. A third of our gas stations have backup power, 2/3 don't.
Excellent. Okay.
So we just track so much.
That's great. What's your favorite part of it, of D4H? I mean, is there a particular feature?
Are my favorite. The other piece
customizable?
The other piece that gets used a lot is the log. And the fact that you can just ping an individual or attach a photo or whatever to it, that comes in pretty good.
Excellent. So everyone I talk to always has suggestions for me as well. And I bet I could search our help desk and find a few of yours.
Yeah.
You've mentioned before to me qualifications and being able to report better on what training's coming or needed to be done.
We noticed that we can go into a qualification and it'll show who has completed and who is outside has expired.
Yeah.
But and also we can go into groups and you can see for each individual what they are overdue on or haven't accomplished. But we aren't able to get a printable report from that. Usually what I do is I copy and paste into a Word document this information from that screen.
Yeah,
that's one thing that would be handy for us, is to be able to, especially in groups, is to be able to print off a report showing who in that group is still due what type of training, which it shows on the screen.
It shows, but it's not printable.
Yeah, there's no print for it, no report for it.
Okay, yeah, it's not on the.
The data management for the tools are excellent. There's just and in the past you've helped us. You came up with the original qualification sheet for us.
That's right. Yeah, you were that printout. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I got some money out of the state, and we funded having that done.
I do remember. That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
That report. That's a great printout. Yeah, brilliant. Oh, excellent. Dale, it's been great. Really enjoyed chatting to you.
Yeah,
it's gone very quickly, our time. Any questions from me or anything either that I can answer for you on what we're planning to do with D4H or anything else?
Don't change your business model.
Okay.
Because we've had software companies that got bought up by software companies that got bought up, and every time that happens, the service goes down and the price goes up.
Yeah.
And you guys have your customer service is amazing.
That's great to hear. Yeah. Thank you very much.
So, like I said, don't change your business plan.
No, don't worry, we're sticking around for the long haul.
Good.
So, Dale, listen, that was brilliant. Thank you very much for your time.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Yep.